In layman's terms, can you tell us your opinion on how important it is to have imports and exports actually balance? I'm not sure if that's ever happened in the history of the United States or in any country for that matter, but right now we do have an import or an export deficit, for lack of a better term.
Exports create jobs for Americans, and they create high-paying jobs. On average, they pay 15% more than the national average wage. So there's no question that exports are a very good thing for the American economy. Now, having said that, we have to recognize that trade is a two-way street. And so if we want to have markets that are open, then we have to be ready to open up or have our own market be open. And I'm very proud to say that we have been and continue to be one of the most open markets in the world. So while I can't tell you exactly what the right number should be, sure, I can tell you that I think trade is generally good. Exports are especially good for creating jobs and creating high-paying jobs. And American business needs to continue to look at the export sector as part of their business strategy.
For a period of time, free trade agreements were at least it seemed to me like they were coming one after another, where they were, the administration was pushing them, they were being ratified by Congress, and on to the next one. In the past 4 years, there's been a definite slowdown in trade agreements. Do you see that changing at all?
Well, free trade agreements are a very good tool for us to reduce trade barriers. So I do anticipate free trade agreements continuing to be one of those tools that we use. The other aspect of free trade agreements is that they generate a lot of debate. Because as you open up a market, there will be some sectors that will realize great advantage. Their products will be easier to sell in a new market. But other sectors may be hurt as products from another country come in and can compete more effectively for a whole host of reasons. So this is naturally an issue that engenders a lot of public debate, and we're seeing that with the 3 pending agreements, Korea, Colombia, and Panama. The President is on record as supporting the ratification of these 3 agreements. I believe on the whole these free trade agreements will be good for the U.S. economy. There are some issues that need to be worked out, and the President has directed his U.S. trade representative to work them out. And once we do that, we'll bring those 3 agreements to the Congress, and I'm confident that Congress will ratify them.
My observation is that the Congress is not sure whether or not free trade is a good thing anymore, whereas for maybe the 80s and the 90s, it was universally accepted as a positive. Without digging a whole lot into that subject, because I know it's extremely complex, do you have just a cursory overview on what you feel the largest successes of NAFTA might be?
I think you'll find very few members of Congress saying trade in and of itself is bad. I think most people agree that trade it can be good as long as everybody's playing by the same rules. And so the concern you hear in Congress is that we don't always have a level playing field. And so part of my job, part of the job of my counterparts at USTR is to create that level playing field. So the International Trade Administration, in addition to export promotion, is charged with enforcing our trade laws. And so when a company dumps product here, dumping being when you can buy a product here in the United States cheaper than where it's made, that's considered dumping. And when you abide by World Trade Organization rules, you agree as a country not to let your companies do that. You also agree not to subsidize a company to favor them in the export world. And so we enforce those trade laws. And then as we look at trade barriers, perhaps countries set up trade laws that make it harder for us to export. And so it's our job, and I think Congress has a legitimate concern in making sure that there is a level playing field for trade. So, so that's what I wanted to speak to. With regard to NAFTA, we've seen two-way trade increase by huge numbers. Now, there are some sectors that have been hurt, not just by NAFTA, but by the fact that as you open up trade, sectors some will benefit, some will be hurt by it. And so I think that is certainly the case with NAFTA. But on the whole, we have 17 trade agreements currently. And we run a trade surplus with all of them taken as a whole. A few of them we have a deficit. But if you take them all in the aggregate, we're running a trade surplus. So I think generally, free trade agreements have been good for our economy.
Many say the Commerce Department building is a very large and difficult building to navigate. With all due respect, have you ever found yourself lost in those corridors?
Well, it is a large building and a bit of a maze, and it did take me a while to find my way to the restroom or to the building cafeteria. But it's also a historic building, and so it's a great honor to be in one of the early government buildings of the federal government. And so I'll put up with getting lost from time to time to work here.
Mr. Undersecretary, thank you so much for your time today.
Andrew, thank you. It's been a pleasure being here.